Greetings. This is attorney Talib Karim Muhammad with Abe Legal, and I am delighted to have a wonderful guest who we are looking forward to getting into a great conversation with about the state of affairs of business in 2026. What are the issues that people who do business outside of the United States, in particular, have to contend with? We know that we are in an unprecedented time with respect to immigration. We are, in a new world related to sanctions, and with all of the military interventions happening, both not only in the Middle East but in South America, now even in Europe with respect to Greenland. What does this mean for businesses, particularly who rely upon income from customers outside of the United States? And so that's what the focus of this conversation is going to be about. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to put them into the comment. If you are not already a subscriber, don't again hesitate to subscribe and like so you can save this content stream for the next program. And feel free to share this with your friends and family. We're really looking forward to an exciting conversation with our guest, Adel Abrahim. So stand by and let's look forward to a great conversation. Welcome back. I am here joined by the man himself, Adel, who is an amazing attorney with a significant reputation and a lot of experience, particularly assisting companies based in the United States in engaging with customers outside the United States. And so we're going to kind of start, this conversation like we start all of our conversations, asking Adel if we were again looking at a book. It was called The Making of Adel Abrahim, and we were going to open up the kind of like the summary of what that book would be about. Can you give us, what it would capture from, let's say, your college days to now, and how you became the amazing attorney who you are today?
Absolutely. Thank you first and foremost, Talib, for having me on. I really appreciate it, and appreciate the opportunity for me to share my story as well. So, what that book would look like, it's an unorthodox approach to growth in an attorney's career. I started very early on with a large white collar firm in Manhattan. I worked there for a brief stint. I got my feet wet with M&A and transactional work. And, I decided, I saw too soon the rat race that was big law. And, I didn't want that necessarily for me in my career. So what happened is, I made a decision to pack my bags and move to Kuwait, where I was raised. I had a pretty good network growing up of friends and contacts, and thought I could capitalize on that. And moved there. I worked with one of the largest and well-established law firms in the country, and worked there for a couple of years. I moved to a smaller boutique outfit. Then after that, and my goal early on was to learn as much as possible and to soak in as much as possible. So I had a philosophy of never saying no to work, regardless of what it was. If it was, um, you know, some would say it's paralegal work or runner work or whatever you want to call it. But I took it all, and I I did it, and I gained a lot of experience that way. Um, I learned quite a bit, and it allowed me to be in a position very early in my career where I could have conversations up and down with anyone, in any organization, understand exactly what's required and what needs to be done. Um, and then soon after that, I was recruited by a family office headed by a principal from one of the wealthiest and oldest merchant families in Kuwait and in the region. I joined as an attorney. Within 4 months, I became general counsel to the family office and the group. I became personal counsel to the chairman and principal, and I was also a member of the executive committee. I advised the board. I was also part of risk and strategy as well. And, that led me to work in over 35 jurisdictions worldwide. It was a great experience for me, and I loved what I did. It, allowed me to do everything I wanted from, cross-border business and international work, which was a dream for me. And eventually got to a stage where, I wanted to, I always wanted to set up my own practice, be my own boss. And I decided to do that in the middle of COVID. Um, Perfect time to do it. Um, but anyway, I you know, took steps to set up Privatus Counsel and moved back to the States and launched 2021. And now, almost 5 years later, we have several offices between DC, New York, and Kuwait, and affiliations with others in other jurisdictions. And continue to do the same type of work in terms of cross-border business, M&A investments, and representing private clients, family offices, growing companies, and everyone in between. So that's the few minute spiel, and happy to drill down, Talib, on whatever you feel like we can talk about. You're on mute.
Sorry. Thanks. In this tumultuous environment, we have literally airlines canceling flights to places in the Persian Gulf, and governments seizing other governments' assets, territory, and oil. What is at the top of the kind of list for the workflow that you are facing right now going into 2026?
Well, uncertainty has been a headline in a lot of conversations that I've been a part of. So on the business decision making side, on the investor decision making side, having non-transparent policy or shifting policy that changes, month to month and sometimes week to week, does not spur confidence in a lot of the areas that we work in, unfortunately. So that's been a major impact on business as a whole, and you're seeing that slow down decision making and therefore economies, and that means less deals are done. More people are waiting and seeing and are in a holding pattern. And unfortunately, as advisors to prospectively these types of deals, it means a lot of work is slowing down.
So that's a good kind of starting point. What do you think businesses, either businesses based here who want to do deals in the Middle East, in other places across the world. What should they be doing, in this time of uncertainty? Oftentimes, as you mentioned, some people, kind of pull back, retrench. But for clients who are uncertain, what is your recommendation for how they should, utilize legal expertise like you have, to, move to the next level? I oftentimes encourage people, that when you're uncertain, this is the time to engage me. Don't, go ahead and basically, or, embark upon a new task without the benefit of legal counsel, just because you're uncertain. In fact, that's the time to engage. What's your advice?
Absolutely. I think, the earlier that they engage counsel, wherever they intend to do business, the better. And it's more than just, from the business sense, it's not just the drafting of a contract or the review of a contract. Oftentimes, deals are won, or, value is added much earlier than that, when KYC is conducted. KYC being know your customer. When due diligence is on the table, and counsel is able to effectively dive in and identify risks, not just legal but commercial and strategic and even financial. So the earlier that competent counsel can participate in, even the strategy of, how to approach doing business with or in, customers or clients or partners in various jurisdictions. That means, most likely, reduction of risk. That means perhaps there's a strategy that, the attorney may have come up with that would be more efficient or less costly. And so there's a lot there, and I would really encourage that, they be there as kind of the founding team members, and helping to steer that ship, and coming at it with a different perspective. Definitely not just pure commercial, not just pure legal, but sort of a combination of the two.
And, let me ask you, this is one of the things that I would imagine a lot of people want to understand, with 2026. What are the, kind of recommendations, that you are giving customers and clients at the beginning of the year to look out for? What are, this is the, again, almost the end of the first month. What are you advising right now?
Yeah, is understanding the lay of the land, right, wherever it is. So now you have initiatives with many governments. It's not just the U.S., but across Europe, the Middle East, the GCC, the Gulf region as well, where new policy, new regulation is being proposed and promulgated and implemented to spur growth, or economic movement, or whatever it is. And that means that there's a lot more to learn. That means the way that things were perhaps a few months ago, or a year ago, or 2 years ago, are no longer applicable, or there may be other considerations that uh, need to be considered. So it's important that the diligence process is taken up, that there's an understanding of the regulatory foundation of wherever they are looking to do business. And that's probably the most important thing, is do your homework, and um, of course have the attorneys with you.
And on that point, with respect to regulatory issues, what are some of the regulatory issues that relate to, people who have team members who work remotely, in particular. Let's say if you're working in the United States, but you're, basically, um, your customer base is in, the Middle East or in Europe or Asia. What are some of the compliance issues that a company has to deal with respect to that type of dynamic?
It's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of issues that touch on various areas of law. Labor and employment is one of them, right? So just as over here, you have nuances that separate an independent contractor from an employee. You have very specific rules and oftentimes very different standards or formulas that apply in other countries and jurisdictions. So when engaging third parties, I think that's an important thing to keep on the agenda of issues that need to be cleared. Um, and structuring certain things, of course, it's um, from a legal structuring perspective, exposure to statutory fees that could well, I'm trying to be a general here, but I keep thinking of specific examples from various countries. But there are nuances to um, in each jurisdiction that may be very very different from another. Um, I'll give you an example. So that some jurisdictions have a concept of a statutory protection when you engage in contract with them in certain relationships. And at the end of the relationship, when you terminate, by law, the foreign principal, i.e., perhaps the U.S. client who's doing business with that person, may be required to pay that statutory indemnification to them. It's almost like an award just for propping up their brand and business in that country. Um, so that is nowhere in the U.S. legal system, but you do find this in others, which is comes at a shock a lot of times to U.S. foreign principals and others that are doing business in these international jurisdictions. So it's one of many examples I could think of, but that's when we're going back to DD and understanding the lay of the land and the regulatory space. That's why it's so important to set out these issues, understand what the implications are from a labor perspective, from a tax perspective, even a statutory ownership restriction perspective. All of that plays in and should be considered as part of the ultimate decision on um, how to do it and if to do it.
And how does that play in the analysis on another level, and as it relates to immigration? I know that recently there were immigration changes to both increase the fees for H-1B visa applications. There were changes to the investor visa program. What are you advising clients as it relates to that? Of course, there's been a crackdown on immigration visa overstays, which is why we see all the ICE activity. Can you speak to some of those issues that people who are both doing business here in the United States or based outside of the United States need to be looking out for, as well as companies who are based in the United States who are recruiting people from outside the United States to work?
Yeah.
What are some of the issues that they need to be looking out for?
Well, immigration is not my area of specialty. Naturally, it comes up every now and then, and I do have conversations with clients that they bring up among the options of how to do business and the approach. Immigration is always something that comes up as an option. And with immigration policy also changing, that goes back to my earlier um, comments on uncertainty and how it doesn't necessarily spur confidence, and perhaps it may close certain doors that were ordinarily open in the past. So it's an area that I hear about quite a bit. I personally don't involve myself. I'm not a specialty in immigration. I usually leave it to the immigration attorneys who, work in that field very well. But it is definitely an issue, and um, we're seeing it change pretty often.
I particularly am just curious about how companies outside the United States are tracking and are looking at some of the most recent things happening here within the United States. We have of course, the action against Venezuela, which the United States has literally seized the country and seized their oil reserves. Without may argue justification or right. We have, of course, the ICE events people feel are also unjustified, including the killing recently of two people, both a woman first and then a gentleman just this weekend. What are your clients and companies outside the United States? How are they looking at these incidences in particular?
Yeah, I mean, politics is, it's ever changing, and it's always a topic of discussion. Surprise and mixed opinions. Oftentimes, you talk to different people and they have different positions. Um, and ultimately, when it comes down to, what I do, it all plays a factor in ultimately their decisions on doing business and investment and so on. We live in um, an open economy, where now more than ever before, you know certain headlines and events, they have immediate effects that you see, in the stock market, and board level decision making. And there's a lot of factors that come out of it that are considered and that drive decisions one way or the other. So clients are definitely aware. They watch closely. The U.S. is an economic leader. The U.S. dollar is used in transactions all over the world. So everyone in some way, shape, or form has some sort of vested interest in seeing what happens domestically, as well as with foreign policy. Um, and people will have, of course, mixed opinions, but it does affect their business judgment at the end of the day.
We have a question here in the chat, and it's when a sudden geopolitical crisis breaks out, like the situation we discussed. What are the single biggest strategic or operational mistakes some businesses make in the first 48 hours of panic?
That's well, the mistakes. If clients have decent teams and they rely on their advisors, they would get opinions from legal and finance and strategy and risk, and they should be able to come to a more informed decision rather than a um, a quick reaction to certain things. Um, so the biggest mistake I think that I've seen is clients acting um, or reacting quickly without consulting with the brains around them that have the expertise when it comes to um, currency and legal and compliance, and whether a force majeure can apply or not. Um, whether stoppage of performance is justified under the contract or under applicable law. I think getting a strategy together is the most important thing. Making a decision without strategy and without the outside input of the trusted advisors, being legal, financial, and operational, and otherwise, is probably the biggest mistake.
Adel, let me ask you also another question. I was listening to a podcast recently about antitrust issues, and the expert who was a former chief of staff for an agency for which I used to work, the Federal Communications Commission, was talking about how he was advising clients on antitrust matters. And his analysis was that, in terms of the government's role on antitrust issues, it, probably unlike any time in recent history, the outcomes seem very determinative based upon the relationships that that company has, particularly with the White House, the Trump organization, um, especially. What value do you advise clients to put on establishing those types of relationships, and how do you personally go about creating those types of opportunities for your clients?
Relationships are important, absolutely. They're important in various areas of business and touch points and in society. Um, I think growth doesn't happen in a vacuum. Growth needs support at various levels. Um, so I mean, we build our reputation on what we do, and we do it well. And in the legal field, we network a lot, and we look for support when it comes to growth. I think clients do the same thing, right? Clients, they do the same thing, and they look to within their sector, industry, and field. What players and stakeholders would help them the most, and build those relationships from there. Um, so it's not uncommon that you see these things, and um, I think it's an important thing to keep in mind, and you see it often.
Another question that comes to mind is AI. As you know, $500 billion has been invested in AI over the last year in the United States. A lot of countries, including those in the Gulf, are focusing on establishing in relationships with U.S. AI companies and building AI infrastructure. Is that an opportunity area for companies like yours? And is there a pathway for a company who is doing AI here in the United States who wants to connect with clients in the Middle East who are looking to access that type of expertise? Are you someone who could be a conduit for that type of relationship?
Absolutely. So, what I do and what we do is, sector agnostic, and we dealt with the kitchen sink of technologies, and old and new. I think AI is another opportunity that you're seeing that frenzy now and for the last recent while. Um, so definitely the opportunity is there. The interest is definitely there. I see it. I see a lot of clients and their partners and vendors and suppliers incorporating some form of AI into their operations. Sometimes, it may be directly client facing. Sometimes it may be just to assist with certain workflows internally. But I think it could definitely be helpful. And from a legal perspective as well, I think there's a few issues that always need to be considered. Um, you know, uh, the data protection, use of confidential information is going to be a front and center issue, I think, with a lot of regulated spaces. So that will be an emerging issue, I think, um, that will come out pretty soon, and I'm seeing it already. But absolutely, we could definitely help with that and um, take advantage and capitalize on the AI trend.
And how about you? How are you seeing opportunities to use AI, especially in times where perhaps client interaction, client revenue is down? Is AI a resource for one finding new revenue streams, new opportunities, and two, improving your marketing to outreach to clients? How are you, and what do you recommend for other businesses and practices in your same space to utilize AI? What's your
Yeah.
recommendation for them?
So I have a couple thoughts on that. AI definitely can be very helpful if if the prompter understands how to use it, right? So I think not anyone can just open up an AI created agent and expect that it's going to get the most out of it. I think there needs to be a little bit of understanding on how it works, how it responds, and when you start to understand um, you know the back and forth, right, and how it's kind of structured in order to respond to you, then I think it could be a really effective tool in any part of the business. um, it could be used as an assistant for scheduling. It could be used as to parse through thousands of pages and identify perhaps certain words or phrases, and really expedite review times. It can I mean, it can do so much, and it just you know but there needs to be a an effort to kind of narrow and understand how to prompt, how to instruct, in order to get the most effective response back. Now, having said that, I see, a lot of lawyers and clients that are using AI without understanding that it can, it could lead them in the wrong direction. They put so much reliance on it that unfortunately they're not thinking about the output, and they just deem it to be true. Um, so I unfortunately I see that daily. I see that with a few people that I've worked with, where one tell is that you know generally there's one AI agent out there that bolds certain keywords throughout a text. Right. Normally, people don't do that. It's a telltale sign that there's an AI program that's it's pretty common that it would do that. Um, the sentence structure ends up becoming a certain way. And what happens is, a lot of people, rather than thinking about the output, they're just feeding it into the AI agent, and whatever it spits out um, is, they just think it's got to be correct. Um, and another obstacle as well is, I think that these AI agents are meant to please uh, the um, the prompter, right? They're meant to make the prompter satisfied. So, you know, one test is, if you know something, if you know the answer to something, and you want to really test it, you can ask the AI a leading question to go the other way, right? So if, let's say, that something is illegal, but if you phrase the question in a way where you want it to be legal, AI would likely not challenge you on it, and they would go with it, right? Which I think is really dangerous. So, in a nutshell, I would say there's definitely benefits. There's use cases if the prompters understand how to use it specifically. But I would be very cautious and hope that people would kind of start to look at it critically and not allow AI to drive their decision making. They ultimately need to be the decision maker at the end of the day.
I think that's a really good way of concluding. Just again, for people who want to, of course, book a consultation, they can go on to Abe Legal. Do you have what's your? Do you have like some Instagram sites or LinkedIn? When people want to pick your brain, what are the best ways to get in contact with you, Adam?
Sure. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram. I have a Privatus Counsel page as well. My website is there at privatuscounsel.com. And, there's a contact form, and, email is probably the best way. So if you, send an email, I can, respond pretty quickly, even in the middle of different tasks. Um, so, please feel free. There's also a number, call the office, and, we could take a message or set up an appointment for a consultation as well. Um, so, happy to take, happy to help and support the masses, and I appreciate the opportunity, Talib, for this discussion, and I hope people benefit.
Alhamdulillah, I think this was an amazing opportunity. And I think this is a key. At the beginning of the year, a lot of folks are looking at different opportunities, be it, investing in real estate. Others are looking at perhaps investing in technology. Few people think about, opportunities outside the United States as an investment opportunity. And then they don't know how to actually do that. They don't know how many people, particularly in the Middle East, who have the skill set that you have. And so I think, having this put on the agenda for people in the business world at the beginning of the year, I think is key. Because it is all about the relationships. As we conclude, some people are thinking about as a way of kind of spurring opportunity, the best way is to, kind of go over to the market. And others think that, well, maybe the best way of spurring opportunities is to bring the market here, hosting some type of, let's say, trade show or something like that. If I wanted to, again, kind of test out the waters, and I was looking at, where to find the best partners, what would you recommend? Finding an event there in, let's say the Middle East, let's say Qatar or Saudi Arabia, that I could, attend, or inviting some, hosting an event here and inviting, advertising it so we can find people to invite here, or we're contacting somebody like yourself who knows folks over there to invite them? What's the best approach that you would recommend?
Yeah, I think both, right? So there's conventions and expos, all over, all over the region there, as well as here, sometimes that kind of sponsor, promote, doing business in various areas and jurisdictions. Another way as well, Talib, is networking. So we mentioned before is crucial. People that know other people, um, you know, getting those second and third degree connections, to ultimately someone that, you know, where there's a mutual friend involved, is a nice way to kind of start a communication and a prospective relationship. So, getting out there, talking to people, asking for introductions to others in certain spaces, is it's the old-fashioned way, but I think a lot of times is really really effective, because of the familiarity with, let's say, the mutual connection there. Um, so you know, I would encourage that, and above all.
Well, one of the things I'll share with you, as you probably know, is that I am running for mayor of Washington, D.C. And one of the things that I have thought about doing is, upon being elected, hosting a annual, trade summit here in Washington, D.C., where we would bring, companies from the Middle East in particular and other places around the world to Washington, D.C., to pair them with DC-based companies who are looking to do work in those areas. Do you think that might be, and then maybe repeating it with a visit, again, a trade delegation with some of our companies who want to do business to some of the areas? Is that a good idea that you recommend?
Absolutely. I think, it would lead to good publicity, and get a lot of people with very similar interests in one room or one location, and you probably have a lot of meaningful discussions that could lead somewhere. So, definitely not against the idea of a summit. Any networking event, I think, can be effective, and getting people in front of each other is, a really nice way to do that.
Okay, well, I'm going to just tell you that I'm going to be calling on you
Hey,
to
anytime,
make
anytime.
that happen. And then I tell you what, why don't we even do it in the event? Why don't we start working together now so we can build up for that? Because I do believe that's a missed opportunity. We don't have enough opportunities here in DC, and perhaps this might be the case in other cities where you're creating that type of connection. And I think that this is the time to do it. In a time of uncertainty, the best way of addressing uncertainty is through building the relationships.
Right.
And it's one thing to just talk to people over email or over Zoom, but it's another thing to get people in the room. And I think that's what we'd like to do. And I'd love to work with you, Adel, if you're willing to work with us in that respect.
Absolutely, Talib. You call and I'll be there.
Inshallah. All right. Well, Adel, this has been a great opportunity. I appreciate you. I know this is a busy time for all of us, especially with the snowstorm. We pray that you and your family will stay safe, and that all the customers will take the opportunity to engage with you. And of course, your contact information both on LinkedIn as well as on our website, Abe Legal, are in the ticker. We are grateful to have had this time, and we ask that the Almighty be with you and your family.
Thank you, Talib. Thank you for having me.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
Well, this has been a great opportunity to kick off the beginning of the year by talking with one of the experts about how to establish relationships with businesses in the Middle East in particular. It is a growing market, and I think that we would behoove ourselves to take advantage of it. Of course, to connect with our guests, don't hesitate to go to Abe Legal, and we will look forward to the next opportunity to engage with one of our new Abe legal counsels. If you do have a legal matter that you are looking to solve, don't hesitate to contact us at 202-517-6982 or visit our website, Abe Legal. That's abe.legal. This is Talib Kareem Muhammad. This has been the Abe Legal Podcast. We're looking forward to this year, 2026, working together with you and winning together with you. Without any further ado, have a good evening.